Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss any video lesson from RAU'S IAS.
Hello and welcome to another session of Daily Prelims Practice. Here we take up MCQs based on important news and articles that have featured in the Hindu and Indian Express newspaper. Topic for today's discussion are displayed on your screen. So let's begin the discussion. First question of today is based on this news in which Supreme Court has asked central government that whether the electoral bond system reveals the source of money that is being pumped into funding political parties. Now, as you all know, in 2017, the then finance minister, in order to evolve a transparent method for funding political party, introduced two major changes. First was related to reduction of amount of money that a political party could accept in cash from anonymous source from 20,000 to 2,000. And second was introduction of electoral bonds. Now UPSC has been asking questions based on elections in India and various provisions related to it. As in 2020, it has asked question based on eligibility to become a minister and provision related to Representation of People Act. So let's take up today's practice MCQ. The question is, with reference to electoral bonds, consider the following statements. You have to identify the correct statements. Statement first. All the parties registered under the Representation of the People's Act 1951 are entitled to receive electoral bonds. Now this statement is incorrect, as there are two conditions in which a party can receive electoral bond. First is that party should be registered under section 29A of the RPA Act 1951, and second, the party must have secured at least 1% of the votes polled in the most recent general elections or assembly elections. The second statement says the validity of electoral bonds remains for 30 days. Now this statement is again incorrect, as the validity of electoral bond remains for 15 days only. So as we had to find the correct statement and both our statements are incorrect, so our answer would be D, that is neither one nor two. So the inspiration for our second question comes from this news, which talks about Supreme Court hinting that it may take up Kerala's review related to its June 2022 judgment. In that judgment, Supreme Court directed a mandatory eco-sensitive zone of minimum 1 kilometer starting from the demarcated boundary of every protected forest, national park and wildlife sanctuary across the country. Now as we know that UPSC has been asking questions based on important developments in the field of environment and ecology. As in 2016, it has asked a question based on Gadgil Committee and Kasturi Rangan Committee report. So let's take up today's practice MCQ. Question says, with reference to eco-sensitive zone, that is ESZ, consider the following statements. You have to find the correct statements. Statement first. As per the National Wildlife Action Plan, land within 15 km of the boundaries of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries is to be notified as ESZ. Now this statement is incorrect, as according to the National Wildlife Action Plan 2002 to 2016 issued by the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, land within 10 km of the boundaries of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries is to be notified as eco-sensitive zones. However, areas beyond 10 km can also be notified by the Union government as ESZs if they hold larger ecological importance. Now the second statement says Commercial mining and felling of trees come under the prohibited category of activities in ESZ. Now, this statement is again incorrect. As we know, there are three categories. One is prohibited, second is regulated, and third is permitted. Commercial mining, along with setting up of sawmills, industries causing pollution, etc., come under prohibited category. However, activities like felling of trees, setting up of hotels and resort, along with erection of electric cables, etc., fall under regulated category. So this statement is incorrect. As we had to find the correct statement, our answer would be D, that is neither one nor two. Our next question is based on Global Hunger Index, which in its categorization puts India under serious category. UPSC in 2016 has asked question about the indicators used by Global Hunger Index report. So let's take up today's practice MCQ, which says, with reference to Global Hunger Index, consider the following statements. You have to identify correct statements. Statement first, India ranks 110 out of 121 countries in which it fares worse than all countries in South Asia barring Afghanistan. Now this statement is incorrect as India ranks 107. However, the second part of the statement is correct as India fares worse than all countries in South Asia barring Afghanistan. Now, second statement is it is based on four component indicators, that is undernourishment, child stunting, child wasting, and child mortality. This statement is correct as GHI score are based on the values of these four components. The third statement says it is a peer-reviewed annual report jointly published by Concern Worldwide and Wealth Hunger Hilfe. Now this statement is correct. As we had to find the correct statement, our answer would be B, that is 2 and 3 only. Inspiration for our next question comes from this news in which a member of Monetary Policy Committee has suggested that RBI should raise the policy repo rate to 6% and should take a pause because it may take 3-4 quarters for rate to be transmitted to the real economy. Now as you can see that in 2020 UPSC has asked question based on what are the steps that RBI would not take if it adopts an expansionist monetary policy. So let's take up today's practice MCQ. Question is, which among the following steps is not likely to be taken by the RBI to promote economic growth? First is decrease repo rate. Second is increase reverse repo rate. Third is increase SLR. As we know that repo rate is the rate at which RBI gives loans to the bank. To inject more liquidity, the RBI reduces the repo rate. The step of decreasing the repo rate is to promote economic growth, and as we have to find the steps that are not likely to be taken, this option gets eliminated. By eliminating option first, you can directly find your option, that is C, 2 and 3, as increase in reverse repo and increase in SLR is used to suck out liquidity from the economy by the RBI. That brings us to our next question, which is based on the news featured in the Indian Express newspaper. The news was about SC rejecting plea to restrain Competition Commission of India from investigating WhatsApp privacy policy of 2021. Questions related to important statutory, non-statutory and other regulatory bodies have been consistently asked in UPSC examination. As in year 2022, UPSC asked question regarding the body which is responsible for maintaining price stability by controlling inflation. So let's take up today's practice MCQ. Question is, with reference to Competition Commission of India, that is CCI, consider the following statements. You have to identify the correct statement. Statement 1 says, it is a statutory body within the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Now this statement is incorrect, as CCI is a statutory body but within the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The Competition Act was passed by the Parliament in the year 2002. It was subsequently amended by the Competition Amendment Act 2007. In accordance with the provisions of the Amendment Act, the Competition Commission of India and the Competition Appellate Tribunal have been established. Now the second statement says, CCI consists of a chairperson and 6 members appointed by the central government. This statement is correct. So as we had to find the correct statements, our answer would be B, that is 2 only. Our next question is based on this news in which National Green Tribunal, that is NGT, has slapped a fine of rupees 500 crore on Karnataka government for its failure in maintaining and taking steps to restore Chandpura Lake situated in Bengaluru. UPSC has been asking questions based on important bodies related to environment protection. As in 2018, UPSC has asked questions based on differences between NGT and Central Pollution Control Board, that is CPCB. Now let's take up today's practice MCQ. Question is, which of the following laws related to the environment comes under the purview of National Green Tribunal? First is the Biological Diversity Act 2002, the Public Liability Insurance Act 1991, the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and fourth is the Forest Conservation Act 1980. You have to select the correct answer using the code given below. Now as we know, the National Green Tribunal has been established in 2010 under the National Green Tribunal Act. It is a specialized body equipped with necessary expertise to handle environmental disputes involving multidisciplinary issues. The NGT deals with the civil cases under the 7 laws related to the environment. And those laws are the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Act 1977, the Forest Conservation Act 1980, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, the Environment Protection Act 1986, the Public Liability Insurance Act 1991, and Biological Diversity Act 2002. It does not cover Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So by eliminating the third option, we can reach to our correct option, that is D, 1, 2 and 4 only. So let's take up our last question of the day, which is based on this news, which is related to wholesale price index inflation being eased to 18-month low in the month of September. As you can see here that UPSC in 2020 has asked question based on weightage of different articles in CPI and WPI. So let's take up today's practice MCQ. Question is, which among the following statement is incorrect? Statement 1. Increase in food prices would have much higher impact on CPI than WPI. Now this statement is correct, as the CPI assigns higher weightage to food, that is 45%, and hence increase in food prices would have much higher impact on CPI than WPI. Statement B. Increase in prices of petroleum products would have higher impact on WPI than CPI. This statement again is correct, as the WPI assigns higher weightage to petroleum products, and hence increase in prices of petroleum products would have higher impact on WPI than CPI. Third statement says increase or decrease in manufactured products would have higher impact on WPI than CPI. This statement again is correct, as the WPI assigns highest weightage to manufactured product, that is 64%, and hence increase or decrease in manufactured products would have higher impact on WPI than CPI. Now statement D says both WPI and CPI measures inflation in services. This statement is incorrect, as WPI does not measure inflation in services. So as you have to find the incorrect statement, our answer would be D. So that is all for today. Stay tuned for more such updates.